Hello, this is Noah, and I'll be going over my part of Sprint 3 for Nestor FS. First of all, going into the retrospective for myself, things that went well, I was able to actually just about double the speed of my code, at least in small tests, along with resolving a couple of smaller issues. I'll be going over how I achieved that speed up when I review my code. But so far as room for improvement, I did end up having to pass the shredding portion of my projects for this week or for this sprint to Josh, and I didn't end up pursuing debloating, and I will talk about that on the tasks page. Next up, for breakdown of labor for myself, as you can see here, I was unable to complete debloating. This ended up getting depreciated and was not pursued. But so far as completed, I was able to do some general improvements, implement a direct viral check after the bloom filter, resolve some issues with Joel's code, along with fixing issues for resolving my clashing map names. Overall, this ended up being just under 5 hours of work for this sprint, but another 6 was dedicated to debloating. However, again, this ended up not being pursued due to the large overhead of getting this handled and being a bit too far outside the scope of the project, which is what our team decided on. So far as impediments, again, just not pursuing debloating. This is, again, mainly because it ended up being too far outside of the scope of the project, along with not wanting to dig more deeply into looking into removing applications that were required by the operating system or were typically removed upon the installation of the system. In some versions of installing Windows, there are features to remove some of the default files. Due to this mainly being done at the installation time and not midway through the operating system's lifetime, we ended up deciding not to implement this. I won't be taking any action to look into resolving this. We're just going to call it a dead feature. Then to go over my live feature demo, I'll go ahead and move over to Visual Studio to show off the improvements that I ended up being able to make. Coming over to Visual Studio, one of the things I can point out is I set up an exact hashes just to show how this works. After checking the MD5 checksum against the bloom filter, I then do a direct check against this exact hashes set. This is populated in bloom filter, which I can go over to here. So this is just populated along with the bloom filter right here. I just add the same lines to both the bloom filter and this exact hashes that is accessed from within bloom filter. To clean up the way that this is populated, I just pass in the set of exact hashes to this create bloom, which again here can be seen to be populated. Back up here, I create exact hashes and then pass this into create bloom when we get the hash filter for the bloom. Then to show the primary thing that I ended up being able to complete here, the speed up came from hash maps. Instead of waiting for all of the maps to complete, this was originally done with a completable feature, and this was blocking, waiting for all of them to complete. I actually was able to research and determine that having a then except actually introduced a significant speed up. This is just due to, instead of blocking and waiting for everything, as they complete, we are able to start scanning them against the MD5 checksums. And then for one additional feature, down when I actually compose the file metadata, I pass in the MD5 checksum. This typically just gets called to the MD5 hasher, which actually computes the MD5 hash. But instead, I was able to have this be an optional feature. I do a check up here based on if the size of the file is 0 or if it is above, I believe this is 50 megabytes. This is due to most viral payloads being within some size here. A 0-byte file, of course, cannot contain any data, whereas a 50 megabyte file is not likely to contain a viral payload. After some rough researching, yes, there are edge cases here, but for our purposes, this was determined to be a good enough upper bound. Then this just changes should be hashed. And instead of passing this directly to MD5 to get the checksum, we just compute a blank checksum just to say that this file was not hashed. And that's everything for my new features. I'll go ahead and move back over to the presentation. Lastly, for next sprint, I should be able to show being done with all of my major features. From here on, also helping my team with the rest of their projects, along with starting to work on the stuff for the final presentation, that including the papers we have due, along with the poster that we'll need. And okay, that's everything for me. I'll go ahead and call it here. Thank you very much, and bye.